If you've experienced something unbelievably weird and unexplainable that left you feeling isolated and afraid, the Paranormal PTSD Recovery Podcast is for you. Each week, we go from haunting to healing by focusing on one of our three core focal points: personal stories, healing tips, and understanding the unknown. We help you to know that you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you can heal. Now here's your hostess, Laura Giles. So I was reading Robert Monroe's Ultimate Journeys book for this month's book club selection, and I got really excited when he started talking about past lives. I've always known of Robert Monroe as the astral projection and remote viewing guy. I had no idea that he had any connection with past life work, so I got really excited. In my almost 30 years as a past life regression facilitator, I have seen a thing or two, and hearing Monroe's story has helped me to put two and two together. I dare say I have a theory now about how to escape the reincarnation trap that I'm going to share with you today. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you tuning in. And if you're not yet a subscriber, but you like the content, please give me a high five by hitting that like and subscribe button to help the channel out. So paranormal PTSD is a really important topic, and your support helps other people to find the channel. Thanks. Okay. I don't want to take for granted that everyone knows what reincarnation is. So reincarnation is the belief that when we die, our souls recycle back into another body in another time, maybe here on Earth, but possibly elsewhere. And we start all over again without the memories of the previous life. I saw a statistic that said 22% of people worldwide believe in reincarnation, and a Pew Research poll said that 33% of Americans believe in reincarnation. Oddly, 36% of Catholic Americans believe in reincarnation. So if you're American and Catholic, you're more likely to believe in reincarnation than if you're an American and non-Catholic, which I find really interesting. So why is this important? Well, the actual beliefs vary from spiritual tradition to spiritual tradition, but in most religions with reincarnation as a feature, your present life is a reflection of your past life. Some feel that it's a meritorious system where good deeds get you a more desirable life, and this is why in the old days, the Indians felt justified in treating people like they had less value. That's kind of the basis of the caste system. And other traditions don't see it this way. There's less judgment attached to the whole thing. For example, in my experience as a past life regression therapist, it's common to see a situation where a man and woman fall in love and the man cheats on the woman. Then in this life, the man or the woman cheats on the man. The purpose of that isn't payback, so it's not karmic really. It's to learn how to deal with the catalyst for the cheating, or maybe the aftermath of the cheating, with love. Everything that happens is always an opportunity for love. It's just a matter of whether or not you choose it. People often refer to this as a trap because it can feel like being on a hamster wheel. You have all these difficulties, you're judged as not doing enough, and then you have to come back and do it all over again, or something even worse, without having the benefit of the memories of the time before. So it's very frustrating. In the first system, you can earn your way out of reincarnation by becoming desireless. In the second system, it's similar. You can get out of the loop by being compassionate, loving, forgiving, and foregoing the need for revenge, equality, love, or anything really. You accept that things are as they are, and the outcomes have nothing to do with you. So you are love and light itself. Now, this gets a little tricky because we have a modern twist to this. The belief in reincarnation is actually going up, and maybe this is why there are so many people asking the question, how do I get out of this reincarnation trap? Because that's exactly how a lot of people see it. Reincarnation is a soul trap. So in this third view of reincarnation, we die, we see the white light, we're told by people who have near-death experiences to go to the light. Our deceased loved ones are there smiling and urging us on, and there is this light and loving feeling. So we willingly move towards the light, and that's when our memories are wiped, our soul gets recycled, and we're back on earth doing the whole thing all over again. Or we go to this life review, we see everything we've ever done, we feel every hurt that was ever done to us, and the things that we've done to others, and we're given the choice to go back and do it all over again. We're given the guidance to plan things like where we will be born, who are our parents, and, into what circumstances will come. It feels like a loving and supportive uh, thing, like we're going to have this choice and it's a challenge, and this time we're going to be up for we're going to be up for it and we're going to do it right. It's going to be so fun. So we signed up for another go round. But why? Does it even make sense? Well, if you listen to the rest of the story, it does. In this third view of reincarnation, our world is created by dark interdimensional beings. They have different names depending on who's telling the story, but these beings use humans as a food source or an energy source. And I talked about this on my podcast about Loosh, and I'll link to that in the show notes in case you missed it. Anyway, the creators of this world have to trick us into believing that we're small, helpless, and trapped because we're really powerful and could really escape if they didn't change our DNA to suppress our pineal glands and our psychic awareness. They also keep us distracted with celebrities, pop culture, buying things, sex, money, and all of that. And we get distracted by politics, climate change, conspiracy theories, disasters, mental illness, trauma, war, and just trying to survive. As long as we're busy with survival, we don't have time to invest in a spiritual life. Not only that, but the more consumed we are with worry, illness, and strife, the more loose the creators get. So at the end of our lives, they scoop up the soul, snag the loosh, and keep us in the matrix. Now, if that isn't enough to give you paranormal PTSD, I don't know what is. When I first heard about that, I was obsessed. I read everything I could, couldn't sleep. I was desperate to get out of the matrix and maintain my own sovereignty. I felt isolated. I felt violated in my dreams and wondered if aliens were spying on us, my private thoughts, so they could use them against me when I die. Most people aren't in a hurry to die. We're programmed to live. We breathe whether we want to or not. If we get hungry enough, we'll kill someone for food. We say we wouldn't, but we would. And if somebody attacks us, we have a way to defend ourselves. So we do. It's just our nature. But that's not the same thing as volunteering to return to a life of suffering. If your soul is not free, can you ever really be free? It's all an illusion. And if you aren't sure that reincarnation is a real thing, let me share some common things that people experience either before they come in for regression or during the regression, okay? So it's very common for people to say that they have an affinity for a person or a place that's inexplicable. Maybe they've never met, never been there, but they're just fascinated. They can't get it out of their minds. Or maybe they go back over and over. That's a sign that they lived there before and either had a really good time there or they had some unfinished business there. If it's a person, they quite likely knew that person before and have some unfinished business with them or someone who looks like them. So they're reminding them of somebody. So recurring patterns is another sign of unresolved past life stuff. Maybe you're always attracted to the guy who doesn't like you. Maybe you can't find love at all. Maybe you struggle with money, being seen, or getting pregnant. It could be that you gain a fortune and lose a fortune and keep doing that. If you have repeating patterns, that's often a sign of an unresolved past life belief. And this is pretty easy to undo once you see it. So unexplained fears is another sign of unresolved past life stuff. Fear of water is a very common one. So if you drowned or had a near drowning in a past life, you could still have that fear now. If you died violently, you may still have that cellular memory and carry the fear of sickness, dark places, men with beards, or anything associated with how you died. Now notice that I say unresolved past life stuff. So energy is a living thing. It doesn't go away because the event stops. It only moves into the past when we have felt it, accepted it, and allowed the change to leave our bodies. Deciding not to think about it or suppress it doesn't heal it. And this gets really important when we get into the Robert Monroe stuff. So here's what stood out to me in Ultimate Journey. So Monroe was able to leave his body pretty much at will, and he could go most places and could return at will as well. And then one day he felt himself called to a person in the other world. Monroe has a lot of names for the different realms. I don't really remember which one it was. So I'm just going to call it the other world. He connected with this person and realized it was a past life version of himself. and he was there to help this part get unstuck. Now, my interpretation of what's going on is that this soul part either didn't realize he was dead, didn't know what to do, or didn't have a belief system to tell him what to do next. So he just hung out when his body died. He was still there when the present day astral version of Robert Monroe came along to help him leave that space and move into another dimension. Monroe didn't say where this part went. They were moving along together away from where they started, and the person just disappeared. So maybe this being went to another realm. Maybe he returned to source. But my interpretation in Monroe's is that he helped a part of himself move towards integration. Monroe basically said that his helpers said that once he had collected all his fragmented parts that were scattered all over the place and was whole again, he could escape the reincarnation trap and return, and not return again. And Monroe did this many, many times, finding different parts of himself that were trapped in the in-between realms. He also helped others who were not part of his past life selves. So he was doing psychopomp work. Another really interesting thing that Monroe said was that the beliefs were part of the trap. If you believe you will see St. Peter and the pearly gates, you will. If you think there are 100 virgins waiting for you, you will see that, because our thoughts are things. And if you believe that karma says that you will have to atone for things and stay here until you learn a certain amount or have a certain level of compassion, then you will. We manifest what we believe. That's the universal law. So if you think that driving fast cars or having sex is the best thing, you're going to do that when you die. But if you learn how to astral travel, can explore all sorts of possibilities, and life as a human becomes boring because there's so much more to explore, maybe you don't need to be here. Monroe says addiction to what we know is part of what keeps us here. He says another thing that keeps us here is fear. We're in survival mode. But if we explore out of the body and see that we still exist, if we see that the things we think are dangerous really can't harm us, and the world is so much bigger than we think it is, wouldn't that lead to diminished fear? And if that fear diminishes, might we let go of the chains that bind us? It reminds me of the Eight of Swords tarot card. It shows a blindfolded woman, and she's bound, surrounded by swords. And she's just standing there because she thinks she is stuck. But in reality, she's only mentally bound. There's a way out, but she can't see it because of the blindfold. Monroe is saying this to us. Fear binds us. And once we get out and explore the other world through astral travel, we can begin to see how free and powerful we really are, because we can test the limits. Now, I'm open-minded, but I don't think that I know everything, and I'm happy to be proven wrong because it means that I'm growing. So don't take anything I say to heart. This is my experience. My lens could be skewed, and I could be misinterpreting things, and so could Monroe. So decide for yourself what you think is true. But in my practice as a past life regression therapist, I have seen people who appear to be living overlapping lives. Their past life self died after their current life self was born. So how could that be? Well, it certainly could be if time is not linear and consciousness is not limited to time and space. If that's true, and Monroe's experience of meeting his past life selves in the astral realm suggests that it is, then why can't you have two overlapping lives at the same time? I've seen people whose current life issues come from a past life self who has not crossed over. They're just hanging out. And how do we know that? It's because that's what they experience in their session. For example, Sally, not her real name, comes in for a problem of not being able to lose weight. She feels it's not medical, but emotional or past life related. So we do a regression to find out. And Sally sees herself living during a time of famine. She has kids, they're all starving. She's desperately trying to find food for her kids when she dies. Only she doesn't realize that she's died, so her past life self is still out there foraging for food. And that impacts current life Sally by a compulsion to hoard food and to binge eat. So we do some healing work for the past life self and help her to cross over, and Sally never has a problem with food again. That's how it works. It's not typical. Usually current life issues are from unresolved past life emotions, but the soul part has moved on. That's why it's always important to view the death and make sure the life is resolved when doing a past life regression. Always, always, always.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss the show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you.
So let me give you another example of a spirit being stuck and fragmented. Okay, so Jim, again, not his real name, comes in because he has an obsession with this symbol. He's looked it up, can't find it anywhere. He's drawing it all the time. It pops into his head at random times. He thinks it must be significant, but he doesn't know why. So he comes in for a past life regression to see if there's a link. So of course there is. In this past life, Jim was part of some secret religious order, and the symbol belonged to them. Jim was an initiate, or someone who was kind of in the door but barely legitimate. And he didn't have access to any secrets yet, but he had made an enemy who wanted him out. And this person lied, and the priesthood, or whatever you call this group, killed Jim for what they thought was his betrayal. They branded the symbol on his forehead before he died to curse him as a traitor. Sometimes people have really physical reactions when things like this come up, and Jim died. His whole body released that trauma. I've had one of these types of experiences too, and it always is around religious stuff, so I get it. Jim's past life self got trapped in the belief that he was cursed and his spirit had to wander, so that's what he was doing. He was fragmented. When we got to this part, to kind of wake that up and realize that he had free will, that he wasn't trapped, he was able to move on to the next realm. I definitely haven't been astral traveling and seeing parts of my past life selves in the other world, but I have experiences that backs up what Monroe says. I'm grateful for stumbling upon that because of the book club, because it validates my own experience. And by the way, if you're interested in self-exploration with a spiritual twist, you're welcome to join the book club, and it's in my community, and that link's in the show notes. So there is one more thing to keep in mind. Monroe says that nobody gets out until we all get out. It's like we all came together here together as one. We fragmented, and then we fragmented again and again and again. And although we can end the reincarnation cycle for us personally, we don't get out of the matrix until we all do that. So it's really important for each of us to do our own shadow work and clear up ancestral baggage. So let me recap the steps for escaping the reincarnation trap. First thing you have to do is start questioning your beliefs. If they are not things that free you and elevate you to a state of love, of self, of all beings, and promote peace, maybe it's part of the trap that's going to lead you right back here. So practice mindfulness. Become aware of your beliefs and choose beliefs that affirm life, freedom, peace, and love for all. To question your beliefs, you have to be open-minded. So listen to people you don't agree with. Read books that are outside your comfort zone. Watch movies that are different from what you normally watch. Rewatch shows and see if you can view them from a different lens. Think of every day as Groundhog Day, so the movie. Every day is an opportunity for a different experience, and yet we typically have the same one over and over again. If you actually live your life mindfully, you won't have 1,000 lives. You'll learn so much in just this one. So you can practice meditation, to practice mindfulness, qigong, tai chi, yoga, journaling, forest bathing, or however you want to do it, but just be present. Listen, savor, slow down. You will experience a lot more than living on autopilot. Learn to astral travel, lucid dream, remote view, or journey to the other world. I would limit my interactions with other beings until you have tested that they're always good and trustworthy. If you put your faith in a wolf in sheep's clothing, you're not going to be better off than you were before you visited the other world. Now, I'm saying to visit the other world to get to know your spiritual essence. When you realize that you are not your body and that you don't die, I think that makes death lose its power over you. I'd also reduce the loosh. Loosh is the negative energy that the creators of the reincarnation trap feed off of. When we gossip, fight, complain, curse, misuse sex, cheat, lie, watch porn, make ugly social media posts, or just engage in general ugliness, we reinforce the prison. Remember, as within, so without. And if you want to clean up the outside, clean up the inside. I would also engage in a program of shadow work, trauma healing, or something like that to find those lost soul fragments so you can be whole. In some indigenous cultures, post-traumatic stress disorder is a spiritual issue. It's soul loss. And the way to deal with that is through reuniting with the lost parts and healing the wounded parts. So even if you have the best childhood, you have some soul loss. It's hereditary. Your parents can't give you what they didn't have. So their unresolved stuff becomes your unresolved stuff. If your mom hates men, there's a part of you that's carrying that too. It might not manifest as you hating men, but maybe you don't trust them, or you have abandonment issues. Maybe you dump them before they can dump you. Maybe you're controlling. If you're honest with yourself, you'll know it's true. So the dream is to die clean, live without regrets. When you get to the other side, you want to have taken away every bit of ammunition they can throw at you to keep you here. You want to be able to say, I did trip Joey in kindergarten. I didn't mean it, and I forgive myself in a long time ago. So I don't feel guilty about that, and I don't need to go back and do that over again. You want to be able to see your grandma standing there smiling at you and say, this is a trap. You're not real. So use your wise mind. You don't want to get caught up in emotion. And if you do that in the day-to-day world, you can bet you can do it over there. To master your emotions, learn emotional regulation and emotional intelligence. I'd also suggest that you live simply, detached from material desires. When you have to have that hot body and that fancy address, and you find it hard to lose it, so you do what you have to do to keep it. All of that time is time taken away from cultivating your spiritual essence. You're going to leave this all behind. It's best to think of whatever you have as a rental. Nothing belongs to you, not your body, your mind, your family, your stuff, nothing. Finally, I suggest that you connect with others who are on the same path. You don't have to have the same solutions or beliefs, but if you're with people with whom you can talk, you will feel supported. It's easier to stay the course when you have support and community. You come across something that you're figuring out, you can bounce ideas off of them. It's a way to grow, be accountable, be more confident, and your peeps can rein you in if you're starting to go down an ineffective path. I don't know what's on the other side, but I do believe that we have a choice. I do believe that fear influences us to make poor choices, and I think we have the power to create our reality. The universal law is as above, so below, as within, so without. So use that influence in the world we live in. If you're centered, love-filled, and compassionate, you help to create it in the world that we live in too. If you believe in free will and the worth of all things, shouldn't that be enough to break those chains? It's the Eight of Swords, guys. Looks like we're bound, we're not. It's a mind game. So here's a quick rundown of how to escape the reincarnation trap one more time. So 1 is question your beliefs. Don't believe things that keep you trapped. 2, be open-minded. This can help you see traps and solutions. 3, live mindfully. This helps you to objectively see what's there rather than seeing through a lens of fear. 4, learn a strategy that helps you engage with the other world. This helps you to prepare for life after your body dies because it won't be your first rodeo. 5 is reduce the loosh, be beautiful. I think it makes it easier to see what's for you and what's not for you when you're not mired in the darkness of your own creation. The 6 is do your shadow work and heal your trauma. Collect those soul parts. 7, use your wise mind. 8, master your emotions. People who think with their emotions are really easily controlled. So 9 is detach from material desires. And 10 is share your journey with like-minded people. Now, that last one might be hard for some of you who are coming from a kind of mainstream background, but you're in luck. I host a free community of people who would love to talk to you about things like this. And I would say that in this list of 10 things you do to escape the reincarnation trap, having a supportive community to share your ideas, questions, and discoveries might be the most important one. It'll keep you from getting lost in fear or thinking that you're going crazy, truly. My community is a small group, so you're not going to get lost in the crowd, but it's a passionate group, and we keep it that way by having a unique entry fee. So you don't have to pay a dime to get in, but that's not exactly free. There's a catch. You have to participate. So everyone there is committing to being there, which really makes it a nice place to be. And once we get to know you, we see that you play well with others and you're a valuable community member, then you can get an invitation to the inner sanctum. And here's where we have our gatherings, like the book club and the talking circle. We have workshops where we do that shadow work kind of stuff that I talked about to uncover what's hidden and keep things moving along. It's a more committed group that goes a bit deeper, and I hope to see you there if you're open-minded, curious, and ready to share yourself. And that link's in the show notes. And you might think, well, why do you do it like that? And it's because that's how you make friends. You get to know people, you hang out with them, and you don't invite them in your house until you've known them a little while. So it's kind of maybe mirroring life. Now, the fact that we live in a multidimensional world is now indisputable. We're seeing drones. There are UAP disclosure hearings. Lots of people have visions of their dead relatives. Paranormal is normal. And it's creating a lot of uncertainty because this wasn't the reality for most of us even 10 years ago. One of the big things that has changed is our perception of reality. If we're living in a matrix and there is a reincarnation trap, it's a good idea to prepare yourself so you can free yourself because nobody's coming to save you. If it turns out that everything I said is wrong, well, all of the suggestions that I gave you to prepare make for a happier life anyway. So it's a no-lose way to live. I'd love to hear your strategies for escaping the reincarnation trap. Do you agree? Disagree? Did I leave anything out? Let me know in your comments. And if you have a story of seeing your past life that you didn't move on, I would love to hear that too. So thanks for being here and listening. Ciao, guys.